Do you know how a forest sounds when you read completely alone? Not the noise of leaves or wind, but the deeper heartbeat under euro, the one that waits until everything else is silent. When days stop having numbers and nights stretch longer than memory, you start to breathe with the trees. You count every drop that falls from a branch, every step that still answers the ground. At first, you whisper for help. Later, you whisper just to prove you still exist. 17 days and then, one afternoon, the silence finally whispered back. The morning smelled of rain and red earth. I parked by Hunter S gate, tied my shoes, and told myself it would be quick 3 miles, maybe 4. A small walk to reset a cluttered mind. I left my phone behind on purpose. I wanted the kind of quiet you can only earn. The trail started wide and friendly, birds called from somewhere high, sunlight slid through branches like gold dust. But then a narrow turn, half hidden by ferns, pulled my attention. I remembered it from another visit. A shortcut, I thought. I stepped off the main path and felt the air change cooler, thicker, like walking into a held breath. The forest began to close around me. After a while I stopped, turned, and looked for the fork. It was gone. The path behind me looked identical to the one ahead. I told myself, 10 more minutes and I'll see the road. But the forest had already decided otherwise. By noon the heat was a living thing. My shirt clung to my back, the taste of metal on my tongue. I tried marking trees with a stick, small cuts in the bark, but when I glanced back, the marks had disappeared swallowed by green. Downhill meant water, and water meant people. That was the logic. The slope carried me into a streambed clear enough to mirror the sky. I knelt and drank too quickly, cold pain shot up behind my eyes. But the water revived me, made me believe I was in control again. I followed the stream for hours. It bent left, then right, then circled back on itself. When the sun began to fall, I realized I'd been walking inside a loop. I built a shelter from leaves, small as a confession, and waited for the dark to decide what I was worth. Somewhere far above, my car was still parked in daylight. Down here, night was already older than time. Darkness and a forest t black s breathing. It shifts, sighs, and listens. I curled beneath a fallen root, knees tight, counting heartbeats to keep from thinking. Hunger was bearable. Thirst was tea. I whispered the old mantra I used to teach, inhale calm, exhale fear. Fear didn't leave, it learned the rhythm. Rain came, soft but endless, tapping out hours on leaves above me. Sometimes I imagined a light moving between trees a flashlight, maybe, or a star misplaced. Each time I called out, my voice cracked and came back as something unrecognizable. When dawn finally broke, it wasn't rescue it was permission to keep trying. I stretched cramped legs, wiped dirt from my face, and said aloud, day 1. Survive day 1. And somehow, I did. Morning gold spilled through the mist, pretending kindness. I limped toward the sound of running water, certain that following it would lead me out. The ground turned slick. Moss shimmered like velvet and betrayed like ice. 2 careless steps and gravity took over. Branches lashed my arms, air tore from my lungs, then a sudden impact euro the world folding into pain. My ankle screamed. When I tried to stand, the bone beneath the skin shifted wrong. I crawled until cold water kissed my hands. The stream curved between steep canyon walls, too high to climb. I drank until I gagged, then wrapped my foot with a torn shirt. The swelling throbbed in rhythm with my heartbeat. Above me, strips of sky blinked through the leaves. A euro I con a euro t stay here a euro I told the air. The air didn't a euro t answer. Rain returned by afternoon, soaking everything I need a euro including my courage. I closed my eyes and whispered, a euro not yet. Not like this. A euro. And I waited for light to change its mind. The third day started without sound. Only the slow pulse of the stream beside me proved the world was still turning. I decided the river would be my map. Water flows toward people, toward life. I followed it barefoot, shoes tied around my neck. Each stone carved a new memory into my skin. Pain, oddly, became comfort to euro. It meant I was still real. Around midday a helicopter euro's hum broke the sky. I stumbled into an open patch, waving both arms, shouting until my throat shredded. The sound faded, indifferent. I stood there shaking, torn between rage and disbelief. Then I laughed a euro, a wild, dry laugh a euro, and kept moving. Later I found half a guava crushed in mud. Sweetness exploded on my tongue, sharp and bright as hope. Before dusk I built a small arrow of sticks pointing downstream. A message to myself, to whoever might follow, keep going. That night, as the forest exhaled around me, I whispered the same words again. A euro keep going. A euro. By the sixth day, I had stopped talking to myself in sentences. It was all rhythm now. A euro move, drink, rest, move again. The river was the only thing that kept its promise. It flowed forward even when I didn't a euro t. I learned its language. The deeper tone meant safety, the high hiss meant rocks beneath the surface. When I stepped wrong, it punished fast. One slip and the current caught my legs, spinning me under. For a heartbeat I saw nothing but white foam and sunlight fractured like broken glass. I clawed my way to the far bank, coughing, half laughing, half crying. The forest around me was endless, but that laugh a euro, however cracked a euro, made it smaller. My feet were raw, my skin burned, but I a euro d discovered something simple. If I kept moving, I stayed alive. That night, lightning split the sky in blinding veins. I crouched beneath a fallen trunk, listening to thunder echo through the gorge. Every flash painted the trees in silver, showing how small I was, how temporary. When rain turned to mist, I whispered, a euro you con a euro t have me yet a euro though I wasn't a euro t sure who I was talking to a euro the storm, the island, or the part of me that still doubted survival. Sleep came in fragments, stitched together by the steady breath of the river. Even in dreams, it pulled me onward. On the seventh day, hunger stopped being pain, it became a hum, a background vibration beneath my heartbeat. I spoke to the air to keep words from dying in my mouth. A euro left foot. Right foot. Good. A euro. When silence answered too long, my mind filled the gapa euro faces of friends, the sound of my yoga studio, my Mothra euro's laugh. They walked beside me for a while, invisible but real. By midday I found a patch of dark berries. I watched birds peck at them, waited an hour, then tried 3. Sweet. No poison. I ate until my jaw ached. Rain arrived like applause, heavy and cold. I crawled between two rocks where the water couldn't reach, curling into a space barely large enough for my body. The storm roared for hours, each gust of wind pushing at my shelter like a hand testing its strength. I started singing softly, not to pass time but to remind myself I still had a voice. The melody was broken, unrecognizable, but the sound bounced between the stones and came back multiplied. Somewhere between one echo and the next, I realized that madness and hope often share the same tune. And for the first time since I fallen, I didn't fear either one. When I woke on day 8, my body felt carved from wood. Still, I moved. The forest had a smell I could no longer name something between rot and rain. Then, halfway down a ridge, I froze. In the mud ahead were 2 footprints. Human. Small but clear. For a full minute, I just stared. Could it be someone else? A hiker? A rescuer? Or were they mine, printed days ago when I circled without knowing? The idea twisted my stomach. What if the forest wasn't leading me anywhere? What if it was folding me back onto myself? I forced my mind still. Keep moving, I whispered. Even circles are better than standing still. I followed the prints uphill, then lost them where the ground turned to stone. The air grew colder, thinner. And then I heard it again. A helicopter. Closer this time, distinct. I stumbled into a clearing, waving both arms, screaming until my throat burned. The rotors passed overhead, invisible behind the canopy. Silence fell heavier than before. I sank to my knees, pressed my palms into the mud, and felt a pulse with the faint tremor of the helicopter's echo fading away. I whispered, don't stop. They re out there. So am I. And when I opened my eyes, a faint rainbow arched across the mist, like the Islanda's tired apology. Day 9. The world had narrowed to 3 sensations: thirst, balance, and the burn of the sun. Every movement was deliberate. Every breath a calculation. I found where the stream split in 2. The left path ran into shadow, smooth and slow. The right blazed in sunlight, steep and jagged. Logic told me to take the shade. Instinct said otherwise. I followed the light. The rocks cut my palms, but the glimmer of sky between branches kept me upright. When I finally stopped, a view opened below a valley I hadn't seen before, threaded with silver water. It looked close enough to touch, but distance is cruel in a place like this. I built another fire that evening, coaxing flame from damp twigs. The smoke curled upward, a fragile signal. For a long time, I stared at that flame, listening to its tiny voice against the roar of the forest. It said, simply, you are still here. And that was enough.
The 10th morning came gentle, as if the forest had grown tired of testing me. The air was cool, forgiving. My body trembled but obeyed. The river widened into a calm basin, the current slow and glassy. Birds returned to first one, then mine, and their calls felt like old friends remembering my name. I reached a small beach of pale sand and sat down, watching sunlight ripple across the water. For the first time, I stopped thinking about rescue. I thought about choice. I could stay here let the forest close over me like a tide. Or I could stand, broken but breathing, and take another step. I closed my eyes and saw my Miraculous face, the yoga studio, the ocean beyond my apartment balcony. I choose life, I said aloud. Not a plea. A promise. The words hung in the air, caught by wind, carried somewhere I couldn't see. And though I didn't know it, far away, people were already searching exactly where the river led. By day 10, the official search was shrinking. Helicopters flew shorter shifts. The sheriff's department began packing up tents. Statistically, a missing hiker after 10 days meant recovery, not rescue. But numbers don't measure stubbornness. We were a loose crowd of locals, guides, off-duty medics, hikers, veterans, people who couldn't bear to scroll past her face online and do nothing. At base camp near Maui, her photo hung on a truck door, Amanda Eller, smiling wide, sunlight in her hair. Underneath, someone had written, "Bring her home." Chris, our coordinator, spread maps over the hood. "Police covered these grids," he said, tapping red squares. "But this zone here, dense canopy, no foot access, they skipped it." We looked at each other and knew where we were going. Javier, ex-military, split us into teams of 3. Each group carried GPS beacons, radios, and little else. "Move slow," he said. "Listen. The forest tells you things." That night we walked into the dark, our headlamps scattered across the mountain like drifting stars. No one spoke much. Hope was heavy, it needed silence to survive. Still, every one of us believed the same impossible thing: if she was alive, she was waiting for this sound, the sound of boots returning. May 17th began gray and windless. Clouds hung low enough to scrape the ridges. Javier unfolded a new topographic sheet, tracing blue veins across it. If she followed water downhill, it funnels here, 3 canyons, tight and wet. No one's checked them on foot. Troy, our pilot, studied the fuel gauge. "We'll get maybe 40 minutes of flight before the ceiling closes." That was enough. We pooled donations for fuel, batteries, food. Locals showed up with boxes of fruit and envelopes of cash. No press, no ceremony, just quiet hands passing what they could. Chris marked a blank stretch between 2 red lines. "Ghost zone," he said. "Thickest canopy on Maui. Drones can't see through it." I remember the smell of coffee in wet soil, the hum of the rotor warming up. Every movement felt sacred. Before takeoff, Chris looked at us and said, "We're not looking for a body. We're looking for breath." Then the helicopter rose, tilting toward the heart of the island where maps turned white. At 3:12 p.m., the clouds split just enough for light to stab through. We were in the chopper, Troy flying, Chris beside him, me at the camera. Javier's voice crackled over radio, no tracks. "Hearing water north of position." Through the lens I saw an ocean of green, endless and indifferent. Then, something glinted. "Hold altitude." I shouted. Troy banked left. There, between 2 waterfalls, a flash, movement. "Arms. Go back." Chris yelled. We hovered, zoomed in. A face emerged from shadow, pale, mud-streaked, eyes open. "Alive." "That's her," Chris whispered. "That's Amanda." The cabin erupted. I felt my throat close, laughter and tears fighting for the same breath. Troy circled, dropping a smoke marker. "Ground team, GPS coordinates transmitting now." On the screen, she was waving both arms, lips moving. She knew we were real. 17 days. And still standing. The camera shook, none of us cared. Chris leaned forward, voice breaking, "We found her." The gorge was nearly vertical, wet moss, jagged basalt, a roar of water beneath. Troy held the chopper steady while we lowered ropes. The rotor wash shredded leaves into a storm. Javier went first, moving like muscle memory. Then me. Then Chris. The smell hit us before sight: mud, sweat, something electric in the air. She sat on a rock ledge, legs in the stream, hair plastered to her face. When she saw us, she didn't cry. She smiled. "Took you long enough?" Her voice was raw but steady. We knelt beside her. Pulse strong. Conscious. Barely dehydrated. One swollen ankle, dozens of scratches. "You did good," I told her. "I didn't have a choice," she answered. We strapped her into the harness. She looked up through the mist, eyes following the rope disappearing into sunlight. I kept thinking, if I can see the sky, someone will see me. When the winch engaged, her body lifted slowly, spinning once, arms loose at her sides, a weight returning to the world. Over the radio, Troy said quietly, "She's in." For a long moment, none of us spoke. The forest roared around us, as if exhaling what it had been holding. Inside the helicopter, everything glowed gold: the sea below, the cabin walls, her face under the emergency blanket. Amanda's eyes fluttered open. "Am I dreaming?" "No," I said. "You're on your way home." Her lips cracked into the faintest smile. "I chose life," she whispered, and it listened. The medic adjusted the 4-line, nodding in quiet disbelief. Outside, the island unrolled beneath us, green, blue, shining with rain. No one spoke, words felt too small. The only sound was the rhythmic thump of blades and the soft beep of a heart monitor keeping time with the sky. When we landed, the world erupted: sirens, hands, voices, but inside that cabin, it was still sacred silence. For 17 days she had fought the impossible, and now she was simply home. The smell of antiseptic replaced the forest. Machines replaced rivers. They carried her through double doors, and suddenly everything that had been wild became sterile and bright. Doctors cataloged the damage: dehydration, sunburn, infection, weight loss. But the heart, steady. The spirit, intact. Her parents arrived minutes later. Her mother covered her mouth with both hands. Her father tried to stay composed and failed. When Amanda saw them, she whispered, "Told you I'd make it back." The room went still except for the steady drip of fluid, like the forest echoing through plastic tubing. Reporters waited outside, but inside, the miracle belonged to no one but the people who had refused to stop. Before she drifted to sleep, she turned her head toward the window. "The island heard me," she said. And for the first time since the search began, everyone in that room believed her. News spread faster than wind over the cliffs. Found alive after 17 days. People poured toward the hospital carrying flowers, food, handwritten notes. Children drew hearts on cardboard that read "Welcome home." The volunteers who had searched refused interviews. Chris told one camera, "She's the hero, not us." Donations came in for rescue gear, for families still missing loved ones. At sunset, Amanda took her first steps with a walker, pale but grinning. Nurses clapped. Someone cried quietly in the corner. When she was strong enough to stand on her own, the crowd outside the hospital cheered as if the island itself was breathing again. Overhead, a helicopter from the rescue team flew one low circle and banked toward the sea. No speeches, no ceremony, just gratitude vibrating through the air like heat. 2 weeks later, she walked again, slow, deliberate, each step proof. No cameras this time. Just her, a walking stick, and the forest entrance. Her car was still parked where it had been found, dust-coated but waiting. She touched the door, smiled. "You stayed," she whispered. She walked a few hundred meters into the green, stopped where the path first curved away, and listened. The forest sounded different now, less like danger, more like memory. Rain began to fall, soft and forgiving. She let it soak her hair, her clothes, her silence. Later, back home, she packed her torn clothes, the broken shoes, and a map into a wooden box. On the lid she wrote 2 words, 17 days. It wasn't a trophy. It was a promise to never forget the cost of breathing. Months later, Amanda spoke publicly for the first time. The community hall was full of locals, rescuers, strangers drawn by the story. She stood at the microphone, small against the stage lights. "In the forest," she said, "I learned that life doesn't owe us anything, but it gives everything to those who don't give up." Her voice didn't shake. And rescue is never one person's miracle. It's many hearts choosing not to quit. When she finished, the room stayed silent, everyone holding the same breath. Then a woman from the back stood and said, "Because of you, I decided to keep fighting my cancer." Amanda stepped off the stage and hugged her. No cameras caught it, but those who were there still talk about the sound of that moment, the sound of 2 survivors breathing together. 17 days. That's how long it took for the world to stop, for one life to return, and for an island to remember what hope sounds like. If you hike the Makawa trails now, you'll see a small plaque nailed to a tree. It doesn't carry her name. It reads, "For everyone who was lost, and for those still searching." Amanda teaches Agini yoga, breathing, patience. She helps train rescue teams, teaching them how the mind survives when the body almost doesn't. Sometimes, at dusk, she climbs to the same ridge where the helicopter first appeared. She watches the ocean burn gold and whispers, "I was never truly lost. I was just waiting to be found." Wind answers softly through the trees, the same forest, a different song. And as the camera pulls back, the island glows under the setting sun. Inspired by true events. Joseph Story 83.